Hi, this is Amber Moore with a case study for EDL-853. So let's take a look at who is Miguel. Miguel is a high school senior starting quarterback. During one of his final football games, he suffered a spinal cord injury and now has to utilize the support of a wheelchair. He was cleared by the doctor to return to school, and as of right now, physical sitting accommodations are needed, but Miguel does not require any academic accommodations. I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. Jimmy Dean. This is appropriate for Miguel at this time. So who are the individuals involved? We're looking at Nottingham High School. The individuals involved are Miguel, the student. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez are Miguel's parents. And Howard Carey was an attorney that was hired for the Hernandez family. Ms. Guzman is the high school guidance counselor, Dr. Harvey is the superintendent, and Mrs. Moore is the high school principal. So let's look at a summary of events. So during the initial meeting with Miguel's parents, nothing was discussed in regards to access or schedule changes. They met. Miguel's parents said that Miguel was cleared from the doctor to return to school, and that was that. On his first day back, however, he was pulled aside by his guidance counselor and told that he would no longer be in the biology class because his biology class was not wheelchair accessible. However, Miguel needs that biology class to qualify for the university that he plans on attending. So his parents have hired a lawyer to fight for Miguel's right to equitable access to educational resources. Some of the laws that I think are important to remember when looking at this particular case is, first of all, the Section 504 Rehabilitation Act, which basically states that all qualified persons with disabilities within a school district are entitled to FAPE, a free appropriate public education. And when they define disability, they define it as any person who has a physical or mental impairment which substantially limits one or more of their major life activities. In this particular case, Miguel does, so he therefore qualifies as a person with a disability. I also want to address what appropriate education looks like. And really what it says is that educational services are designed to meet the individual education needs of students. And I think that's really important to remember, that it's the individual education needs of students. Additional laws that we need to look at are the Americans with Disabilities Act, which prohibits the discrimination on the basis of disability in employment, state and local government, public accommodations, commercial facilities, transportation, and telecommunications. Specifically, we are looking at the state and local side of things in regards to his school building not being wheelchair accessible. And then, although I don't feel that Miguel qualifies as a student who requires an IEP at this time, because there's, at least in the state of Nebraska, he doesn't show a need for individualized instruction provided by a special education teacher. It's still something I think we need to look at, just in case it's something that he may need later on down the road. So what are the legal and ethical issues that are being addressed right here? Really what has happened is the school has violated the Section 504 when they did not develop a plan that was individualized for Miguel because he does qualify as a student with a disability. The school has also violated ADA when they did not provide him access to the classroom. At this time, luckily, Miguel was not harmed because his parents had stepped in to advocate for him immediately. Really what it boiled down to is his well-being at school was not made a priority. The school tried to supplement a different class, yes, but that was not what was right for Miguel at the time. So really what has happened? At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Miguel has been denied equitable access to educational resources, okay? So when looking at cultivating equitable access, really the things that needed to happen in this particular case is that the school should have met with parents to discuss a plan. Inclusion and accessibility should have been the topic of discussion when they met. A 504 plan should have been developed for him, and that was just to ensure that he had access to the classrooms. and then parent consent should have been provided at that time. Okay. So equitable access to educational resources. So here are some possible solutions when considering this. Having the teacher teach the class in a more accessible part of the building. I know school districts have moved teachers into different classrooms at different times, especially during construction, and Nottingham at this time is having some construction. They could research ways to make that part of the building wheelchair accessible without completely doing a remodel. There are various assistive technology devices out there that may be utilized. The most restrictive would be teaching the class virtually so that Miguel has access to the curriculum. So when we look at those three possible options, and we kind of evaluate them a little bit, changing location is little to no cost to the school district. It could be implemented immediately, from almost day one after some things have been moved around. The cons of this one is that it can be pretty stressful for a teacher to move from classroom to classroom at times, and especially in a science situation. And really, the classroom that they may move to may not be, set up for a science class. So I think that's really important. Construction or researching different ideas. Really, the pros would be that the building would be accessible for future students who may need wheelchair access, and it would be ADA compliant. The cons of that at this time are that it's very time consuming, can be very expensive, um, and really, it may not be an option to complete the project before school is out. The third potential option is that Miguel could continue his biology class virtually. Again, it could be implemented immediately and he could access his class and the curriculum anywhere. However, when you're removed from the classroom, you lose out on certain classroom experiences. And the reality is that by moving him, um, this is not the least restrictive environment for Miguel at this time. It really isn't. So those are three potential options. So as building administrator, the decision that I would make at this time is to develop a 504 plan for Miguel's needs. He will continue to take the biology class because that is what's best for Miguel, okay? And the class itself will be moved for the remainder of the semester to an accessible part of the building. This can be implemented immediately, and he can be in the classroom. The action is compliant with the law and would support the district's vision of equity and equality. And I do feel that all stakeholders are likely to support this decision because Miguel is being supported, the program is individualized, and no one is at harm if this action takes place. Discussing kind of what that 504 meeting might look like when you get it, when you start this 504 meeting, you're going to have parents, teachers, the counselor, administrators, they all must be present. Really what it's about is discussing Miguel's plans for post-secondary here in Nebraska. That's primarily what we focus on. And since Miguel wants to go on to a university, we need to look at, well, how do we help him achieve that goal? And what are the accommodations he might need to meet his goal? And really the accommodation he needs right now is to have a building that's accessible for him. And then what is the timeline to have the classroom moved temporarily? Realistically, this should only just take a weekend. People can come in and kind of help move the classroom, and then they can get started the following Monday. I think it's really important that all stakeholders are informed of this plan and everyone is heard. By implementing these plans, the district is less likely to have to go into mediation with Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez in regards to the fact that they were upset that Miguel's classes had changed based on the needs of the school and not the needs of Miguel. And so by following these processes and procedures, the school district would be in compliance with the law, and Miguel would receive the best possible education that was individualized for him. Here are a list of the references that I used, and thank you.